So how can GenAI help enterprises in their data modernization journey? So let's first try and understand what are enterprises really trying to do in the data modernization journey. If you really look at it, there are two different things that they're trying to do. One is they are trying to modernize the tech stack which handles the data. Now, as a part of it, it involves multiple things. Most likely, they are trying to move to cloud, for example, which we have seen a lot of organizations are in the process of. If not, then they're trying to move into some kind of a hybrid architecture, for example, where they build a data platform across cloud and on-premise, or even multi-cloud in some cases. However, that is on the technology and platform side of things. So that's one modernization where they're trying to bring in an infrastructure that can handle the vast amounts of data that is available in the world today, that is getting created in the world today. The second part of data modernization is on the consumption side of things, where again, what organizations are trying to do is try to gain better insights from their data, right? So it's earlier, for example, most of the organizations have been used to static data, reports, dashboards, and so on and so forth. Now, and of course, in the last few years, we have also seen a lot of predictive algorithms. So you had descriptive analysis and now you have predictive analysis as well. However, the question is, can GenAI help to make that even better, take it to the next level, whether it is a form of summarization, deriving better insights, analyzing the data, being able to have a view on the entire data in an organization rather than just a limited set which gets exposed in a report? The answer to all of these questions is yes. Now let's go back to the previous part that I spoke about modernizing their tech infrastructure to handle the data. Now there, it's not just about the platform. There are multiple sub-parts to the way data actually makes its way from the source system all the way to the consumption side of things, whether it is in the form of reports or it is in the form of some predictive algorithm and so on. Now, this entire journey is what I call as data and analytics value chain, which includes things like data management, data privacy, data governance. You have data engineering, for example. Then you have data products now. Let's say if you're going with a data mesh architecture. So in all of these things, can GenAI magically do something dramatically different? It can play a pretty substantial role in bringing efficiencies, in optimizing each and every part of this value chain. How much? That remains to be seen, but an important part is it's not just GenAI. It has to be a combination of GenAI, what we know as traditional AI, so your AI ML, and also automation. The three together can really bring about a massive and substantial improvement to the way we do data platform management today, the way we do data management today, and the way we take care of the data engineering lifecycle. So in conclusion, whether you look at the modernization of the tech stack, or whether you look at modernization on the consumption side, in terms of what the organizations are looking for, better insights from the data, better business outcomes, ROI on the investment that they are making on data, across this entire cycle or the initiative of data modernization, I believe GenAI can play a really important role. Let's look at some of the areas across the data and analytics value chain where I believe GenAI can play a very important role in bringing about operational efficiencies, reducing time and effort, as well as cost in the various activities that pertain to a data lifecycle, all the way from source to the data platform to the consumption. So let us start on the consumption side, since that is a fairly easy to understand area where we believe LLMs can play a very important role, or GenAI overall. We have seen it on ChatGPT, where we are able to interact with a humongous amount of knowledge base very easily in a humanly understandable language. And I believe the expectation is that even in the enterprises, the business user should be able to interact with their data in a similar fashion. So that is an area where I believe massive effort is going in, not just within Tech Mahindra, but from across the world, where people are trying to figure out how to make a business user be able to easily interact with data, one which is visible, which is actually being managed, and then the whole lot of data which is actually somewhere there in the lake, for example, which may not have been modeled into a report or a dashboard. So that is one area where I believe GenAI can definitely play a role. It has already proven itself. If it is able to amalgamate whole world's knowledge, into a simple chat interface, I believe the same can be done for enterprise data as well. So that is number one. Now, going further, see, it's not just about asking a question and getting one simple answer. Yes, that can be done. it's also not about, the way reports and dashboards have been seen in the past. Where we are really looking forward to reach is where a business user can very easily interact with the backend data and be able to not just derive knowledge, but also recommendations on what to do with that knowledge, what are the insights, root cause analysis if there is a problem, or strategic analysis if there is something that the business user wants to do with regard to their business or their domain. So the opportunity here is humongous, and all I can say at this point in time is a lot of these problems have been solved, and we can now look forward to getting much richer data. Now let us come to the other side, which is where the data is actually being prepared, the data journey all the way from source to consumption, right? Now there, let us start with some basics around data. The first and the most important thing about data in an enterprise is data quality. Now GenAI has the capability to process humongous amount of data to figure out patterns, to figure out anomalies, to be able to suggest how to fix them, and then with some amount of automation to actually automatically fix them. So self-healing data quality framework is something which we can definitely enable using GenAI. Now coming to data governance, again a very, very important area. Whether it's lineage, data lineage, it's metadata management, data catalogs, to ensure that everything is standardized, everything maps properly, not only to the source system, but also to the data platform as well as on the consumption layer. So this is another area where we believe GenAI can very easily process humongous amount of information and be able to provide insights, and also with some amount of automation, be able to fix a lot of these errors by itself. Now that will be a process where you use GenAI and automation together. Third area is when we talk about data products, right? So a lot of organizations are moving into a data mesh framework, and even if they are not, the whole concept around data products is evolving, right? Where the domains, they create a data product and then they expose it to democratize it across the other domains within an enterprise. Now, these data products cannot work with each other if they are not standardized, and hence guardrails are put in place in order to standardize these data products. Now, these guardrails, there are a lot of rules around metadata, the way their endpoints, for example, the way they are being laid out, the format of that data product, and so on. And whenever a new data product is being created, different domains are going to create data products in their own way. But there is a central governance team which would have defined the different policies and for that particular data product. So here again, we believe GenAI can reduce the time and effort to qualify a data product to say that it is production ready. So instead of manually going and checking the specifications of the data product, to check if it is a duplicate data product, to check if there are similar data products, we can use a combination of GenAI as well as traditional AI/ML to actually accomplish this task. So that's another area. Let's talk about business analysts, technical analysts, right? Who also are a huge participant in the whole data engineering lifecycle. So there, for example, whenever there is a new business requirement or a business use case, they need to prepare the high-level design document, the low-level design document. They have to come up with effort estimates and time estimates. Now that is another area where we believe with a large amount of documents already available with the enterprises, once the LLM is trained on them, LLM can create, using GenAI, the organization can create a lot of these high-level design documents and low-level design documents. And if not more, at least 30 to 40% of effort can be saved over there, including time and effort estimates. Another area that we can look at are areas like access control, right? So again, there are various rules and policies and which are constantly changing in different industries. For example, in banking and telecom, as to who can access what kind of data, PII data, you have GDPR, CCPA rules. And again, that is another area where GenAI can be trained on all of these policies as they come, and ensure that in the enterprise that have been laid out to govern access to that data, whether it's in the form of RBAC or ABAC and so on, can again be automated, whereby it can throw out red flags, for example, if it figures that there are certain people who are getting access to that data, or certain groups of people, or if there are certain elements in the policy, the way it has been defined, that it can pose a risk to data exposure. So that's another area where we believe it can play an important role. Again, we talk about master data management. For that, entity resolution is very, very important. And that's again an area where we believe GenAI brings a lot of capability for entity resolution. right? So once it is trained on the enterprise data model, it can definitely help, and along with the metadata and so on, it can help in entity resolution. In data engineering, we already discussed a few areas. Some other areas, for example, are development of ingestion frameworks, or for example, test data generation, synthetic data generation. Now, when we talk about creation of ingestion frameworks, we believe again, if the LLM is trained on enterprise models, enterprise data model, as well as it is provided with all the metadata information, the glossaries and the data and data dictionary, for example, it can help. I'm not saying it will take over, but it can help the data engineers be able to map the schemas and the tables and the attributes much more easily as compared to how it is today. Once it has, and now that it has been trained on all of this information, it can also help data engineers define data products that fulfill a particular enterprise use case. So, for example, if there is a use case, and once the use case specifications are provided to GenAI, it can look through the use case, figure out the kind of information that will be required to fulfill the use case, what kind of data products will be required from different domains, and it can check if the data products are already available, and if they are not, it can help define what those data products would look like, what kind of data sets will be required, right? What kind of business transformations will be needed to actually fulfill that particular use case. So as you can see, there are multiple areas, right, where GenAI can be utilized in the data analytics value chain. And internally, what we have done is we have identified a set of 23 odd use cases across this entire journey, from data engineering, data quality, entity resolution, data product creation, to consumption side as well. So, and we are trying to use not only one but multiple LLMs to see what performs best and what kind of automation can be brought about. Once all of this is in place, let's not forget about the operations part. The data platform that has been implemented also needs to be supported. And for that, again, we can use GenAI to look at, for example, when we are tracking pipelines, right? ETL jobs and pipelines. At that time, there could be failures. Root cause analysis is another thing that GenAI can play a role in. So instead of not just providing information in terms of a job failing or going through, it can actually do a root cause analysis based on past findings that it has been trained on, to suggest that these are the possible causes for this failure and these are the possible resolutions. And again, we have actually developed a tool which can do this. And last but not the least, and I mentioned it during while I was talking, was, see, GenAI by itself may not necessarily be the solution. So GenAI, along with traditional AI ML, along with automation, a combination of this, I believe, is a potent combination that can really help bring about a lot of efficiencies and improvements in the overall data analytics value chain and journey. One caution, though, is every enterprise will need to be aware of 2 or 3 risks. One, if they do not want their data to be exposed, then they will have to figure out how to run an LLM within the confines of the environment that they set up in. So they cannot use, for example, public LLMs. Second thing is, they need to be very clear, but they need to ensure that bias does not creep in terms of, when GenAI especially is handling PII data, when it is trying to flag fraudulent data, for example, or when it is providing insights on the consumption side with the reports and the data that it is getting exposed to. So these are a few cautions that we need to take care of. But I believe all of this over time will definitely be taken care of. I'm very positive that GenAI is going to play an increasingly important role in the overall data analytics journey. So at Tech Mahindra, there is one thing that we like to focus a lot on, and that is to create assets and IPs and frameworks and tools which can be reused by our customers worldwide. And in that same vein, we have a data and analytics platform. It's called Dahlia, and as a part of that platform, there is a framework or a tool called as Nexus.ai. And Nexus.ai is a collection of all the use cases of GenAI, right? And when I say use cases, means, for example, GenAI for data engineering, GenAI for data modeling, GenAI for test data preparation or synthetic data generation, GenAI for entity resolution, then again GenAI for data quality anomaly detection, and so on and so forth. So what we are doing at Tech Mahindra is we have identified around 23 use cases where GenAI can impact, and GenAI can have a substantial I can provide a substantial benefit in terms of time and effort across the entire data analytics value chain. And now we are picking each use case and creating a working framework or a model, right, which can be directly utilized by our customers, which can be directly deployed by our customers. Now, of course, there are all kinds of large language models available, as we are aware. The leading ones, which of course, and they vary in terms of cost and performance. Now, one thing that we are trying to do when we are addressing these 23 identified use cases of GenAI across the data analytics value chain is to ensure that all of these tools or frameworks that we are creating using large language model, they work using the closed as well as open source models. And as a result, we will be in a position to provide our customers with an option to go with whichever LLM they choose. Now, what we need to also, one good practice, for example, for any enterprises. Now, there are certain use cases which require really high-end, very high-performing LLMs, right? And they could be costly, but then if the use case is critical, then they may need to use that. However, not every single GenAI use case needs that kind of a LLM to be used. So, and that is where the frameworks that we are creating, where you will have an option to choose which LLM you want to use in order to implement that particular use case, will come handy. Where depending on the criticality of the use case, depending on the kind of performance level required, depending on the consumption patterns in terms of CPU usage, GPU usage, and so on, the enterprises will be able to choose what LLM for what particular use case. So that is what we are doing at TechM. Identified use cases, we are creating working models for each one of them. We are basically making them readily deployable to our customers with an option to choose whichever LLM they want to.